go 500? 500. Go ahead. 5.5. Anybody 550? I got 500 here. 5.5.
Whoa!
550.
Tag team!
Do it. Take it out. What are you thinking? You want to go 5?
Storage Wars stars bid on abandoned lockers for years. Now their own lives look abandoned, keeping things stored. Star Wars stars, and where they are now the stars of Storage Wars, bid on abandoned, locked up for years now, living their own lives, look like one star has been abandoned too. They had heart attacks and lost everything. Someone else was arrested for domestic violence. Third person was almost killed in a. Some people who were famous on TV died in a motorcycle accident. To driving delivery trucks, some people built secret empires worth a lot of money. About what took place with these stars than any other episode they ever caught. Daryl Sheets on film. He was known as the gambler in the Storage Wars, in search of big wins and big risks, but after he quit the show in 2017, the real-life story went in a whole new. Fans had seen more dramatic shows on screen. It all began in peace behind the scenes for 3 months. In the beginning of 2019, Daryl had been having a bad day. He kept it to himself until his body finally gave out. He had not one but 2 hearts break attacks at age 60. He was all of a sudden facing something much worse than a bad. He was fighting for his life in the storage unit. A harsh congestive heart disease was found. Failure, bad lung issues, and this came right after he lost 100 pounds. He thought that by using the Nutri system he felt better and thought he was as he turned the corner, but just as he fixed the outside and the inside broke down. There could not have been a worse time. Daryl had to leave. It had been his whole auction world life for more than 30 years. From his hospital bed, he sent a rough message. On Instagram, he told his followers that he had a mild heart attack. He told them about the secret illness, the emergency surgery, and he was facing a terrifying truth. He said the event changed everything. It made him think about his whole life again, and things kept going wrong for him. During his health scare made Daryl's fiancée Romney angry. Snyder stood by him. They had been together since late 2016, but the bond that got him through his sickness didn't last. It was over by 2022. Just quietly, when a fan brought up Romney on social media, Daryl's answer was mean. He said, "Those were some of my worst years." Then he got a surprise that no one saw coming. He and his ex-wife Kimber are back together. They got a divorce in 2016, but by it had been 10 years since they got married. Daryl posted sweet messages for his anniversary. You can call them online. In just a couple of kids were happy to be with each other. Confirmed if they were legally married again, but after, they looked like a couple again. After years of chaos, Daryl found peace in a place he had left behind before, and that the peace he felt went beyond his love life. Daryl moved to Lake Havasu City, Arizona. He left the storage unit in California behind. He began from scratch with the units and cameras. You can no longer bet on dirty lockers. He started a small business instead. He said, "Show me your junk," where he sells it, brings things together, and sometimes buys things that look interesting to him, but not like. Daryl used to live in a wild world. He used to score for Picasso in one unit, the person who found the most valuable comic book in the world. He now has a book stash and shares, writes and takes peaceful pictures of the lake. He spends his days with people who just love life. Pam Rich, his new girlfriend, who owns with its vineyards and restaurants, it's a different world, one that is calmer and quieter, and Daryl looks better than ever there. Was in the mess. Barry Weiss was never about chaos. He was always the interesting, cool, and unique. He left back in 2013, when the show was still huge. Most people would have stayed for the money and fame, but Barry didn't. He wanted to quit while he was on at the top. He wanted to return to what it's known as being a professional slacker. That everyone but Barry was surprised by the decision. 2014, he wasn't done with TV yet. Launched Buried Treasure, but it didn't last long. The next year, he came for 8 episodes. Back with Barry Strikes Back, which after that, Barry wasn't seen for 10. The spotlight until something bad happens took place in April 2019 while Barry was riding his bike in Los Angeles with a friend. A car hit them. Was bad. Barry was hurt badly. Both of his legs and chest were hurt. A lot of surgeries and time in the intensive care unit. Fans were on edge for days. Shocked news from a friend named the person who posted from the hospital was Jamie. Being in pain in more than one way, his fame changed how he saw everything. His way of life and plans for the future. When Barry got better, he did something strange. He didn't watch reality TV again. He didn't go back to auctions, but instead Sherwood Valley's Face a Casino, he began doing voiceover work. 2. Helping to promote casinos all over. It was more than just a gig in Northern California. It was a new idea that Barry had come up with, a very close call with death, and used it to make a new life for yourself. Ivy Calvin. Ivy Calvin wasn't just another face on wars over storage space. When the cameras stopped as he started rolling, his real journey began. Made his fame from reality TV into something 2009, something bigger that was built to last. Just 1 year after going into storage, then he opened his own thrift store. The store was called Grandma's Attic, but it wasn't not like other used goods stores. This stayed open from 10 a.m. until midnight, and sometimes even later, 3 a.m. almost every single day. That kind of grind drew people to his store. For customers, people came in all the time and things fell off the shelves like as quickly as they came in. Ivy joined Storage Wars in 2012 and have already set the stage for a business empire, and in just a few years he made a lot of money from his work. Went up to about $1.5 million thanks to both the show and the money made from every weekend at Grandma's Attic. The store yard sales were held on Saturdays and Sundays. Have rare finds from fans of the show, and deals hunters came from all over the world. California just to get a piece of it. But Ivy wasn't just lucky, he had a plan. He didn't just wait for nearby auctions, he went hunting whenever he had to. Deals. With 16 years of experience under his belt, he was almost impossible to. Some people tried to play mind tricks. Ivy kept her cool during games at auctions, and he was smart and knew how to keep Facebook page for the store being talked about. He wasn't just having fun, it was business. Used it to keep people interested. Tell people about events and new hidden gems behind the scenes. Ivy was making a machine that worked all day and things were the same at home at night. Ivy and Wendy's wedding was well planned in 2014, and they worked together on taking care of their 2 sons, Ivy Jr. and Isaac. It wasn't just about family, though. Dinners and trips. Ivy brought his boys into the business. Both of them showed up on Storage Wars during the season 13. He even let them be the first ones to bid on. There was more to storage units than just trusted. Was teaching them and getting them ready to take over their life off camera. Was full of outdoor adventures and hunting trips to fish turned into more than just their hobbies. Brought them together. Taught the boys to wait their turn. Ivy valued hard work and working with others. Used the lessons his whole life of the lessons from the wilderness. She wanted to leave the business world and get his sons. Should be ready for both of them before any of these. Ivy plants had lived a different life. In 1995, he played theater. He played football for the San Jose SaberCats. I ran for 75 yards and scored a touchdown. He caught a few passes and scored 4. After only 7 games, he had made 37 tackles. He even tried his hand at MMA, and those sports changed the way he thought and how he competed and how tough he was when things got tough. How strong your mind was carried over into every offer he made and every choice he made as a businessman. Aside from his fame, Ivy never let the lamp get too bright. He writes about cool things like Star Wars toys and collectibles for Baby Yoda, but he doesn't talk too much about his wife Wendy. Does not draw attention to the one big public. The last time she was seen was with him in 2014. At the Reality Wanted Awards. That's the end of it. Ivy had everything else kept secret. He chose to stay away from fame after seeing what it could do for people. In charge Dave Hester. Dave Hester took after storage, a completely different path. Wars in 2012, he changed everything. Turned the TV world on its head with one move, a case against A&E for $3.75 million. Dave said the claims were explosive. Producers put valuable things in there. Are storage units for fake drama, for example a locker full of newspapers. Dave announced that Elvis Presley had died. Said it was worth more than $90,000, but he only paid just $750, and he didn't think it was a by chance. He said producers were bringing everything down to high-end cars and whole lockers full of gold. Even worse, he said they were giving money to other buyers so they could win. They normally couldn't afford to go to auctions. When Dave pushed back and said it felt it was against the law, so they fired him right away. He said he couldn't take part in something. He first took them to court for being fake. Since things didn't look good, the judge threw out the claims in 2013, but by September a different judge let the wrongdoing happen, ending a part of the case. To move the lawsuit went on for a long time, for almost 2 years before finally settling down. No one knows the exact terms in 2014, but A&E stuck to their guns. They never staged anything after the dust settled. Dave wasn't on TV, but he wasn't there either. Give up auctions instead of trying to get more for fame. He went back to the basics and managed auctions for real storage units all over California. There were no screens or catchphrases. The sound of an auctioneer calling out bids. He held a big event in San Francisco in 2023. Louis Abyss with more than 75 units on the. Most of the people there didn't even block. They didn't recognize him, or if they did, they didn't say so. Talk about his TV past, but not his real life. Wasn't as exciting when Dave ran in 2020. He got into a lot of trouble and paid nearly $12,000 for a storage unit that anyone can use later. Storage said it should never have had been sold. The first renter had. They've already paid, but the system didn't give Dave an update. Fought back demanding either the unit or a refund. Storage said no, so the case went to court. Dave lost more than just the unit. Money and the cost of going to court for someone rebuilding after watching TV. It was a. Dave stayed through the whole tough hit. Did not talk about his personal life. He Hester married, but how did they meet? Still a mystery. They have a son, but Dave stays out of the public eye and made a clear choice after everything that happened. Fame from TV made him want peace with the Hesters. Didn't make them happy with their lives. They didn't look for deals on social media. They paid attention to home and privacy, on making sure life stays steady. Brandy Pianti and Jared Schultz. Brandy Pianti and Jared Schultz were once thought of as reality TV's fans of the power couple. Saw them fight, have a laugh and rush through the dusty storage. Stored units in wars for years, but only once. Their lives were no longer being filmed. Took a turn that no one saw coming after the 12th season ended in 2018, and Brandy made a decision that changed her life. She ended her a long time with Jared, but she kept it secret for almost 3 years and no one. In April 2021, they knew they were no longer together. When the show came back, the truth came out. Afterward, Brandy said that relationship as a very tough one, in which she said she had lost her name for many years, and fans were shocked. Behind the scenes of her life, things didn't turn out the way they seemed. In April 2021, that month was even worse. In Orange, she met Jared at a bar. It should have been just another county night out, but it turned violent. Instead of telling him to leave, Brandy yelled at her and pushed her twice. By then, when the police arrived, Jared was not there. There was harm done to the district attorney. He was charged with a misdemeanor domestic violence, and it wasn't just a famous person. It was more than just a breakup. And dark. Brandy also talked about taking care of their 2 kids, Cameron, and most of the time by herself. She said, was making it on their own before I did a lot of it by myself anyway after the split. During a live Facebook chat, she said owns the kid and is now the scary dad. A voice in the background says, "We're not there," she said, but even with all the Brandy moved forward and started. A pain happening now is a YouTube podcast. She found a new partner with Hammer. Recent news about Clifford Beaver and May 2025 mean that marriage might be on the horizon. From not being able to see to Bryce taking charge of her life, the change has been nothing short of. Jared's story went in a very interesting the other way after 2019. He's not as often on Storage Wars now, only came back for a short time in 2021, but the mood had changed, and Brandy stayed out of sight and viewers that year. They could feel the stress. The event at the bar shook Jared up. He denied the claims and left the scene of the crime. Before the police arrived, fans who had seen the two were funny and loving. Shocked that he had been on the show for so long. 2010 and even had a part in a spin-off. Brandy and Jared got married to the job in 2014, but by 2021 had broken down after he left TV. Jared could no longer keep quiet. Shows no interviews. Instead he went after he now owns a new business called Rush Bar and Grill in Lake Forest, California. It's an important change from reality TV fame. The news makes it seem like he's dating someone new. He hasn't said much about the breakup, though. Or the fees his old company the Now Then the thrift store didn't make it. Either the Long Beach branch shut down. 2016 since it never made money. What began as a fun and flashy TV pair turned into a Brandy rebuilt her life after a bad event. Jared took a step back from the attention. Laura and Dan Dodson Dodson became well known because they were in the storage wars, but their story is much bigger than reality TV. For a long time the cameras began to roll. Dan had been an auctioneer since 1983 when they met in 1996, and she wasn't just his soon-to-be wife, she became his business partner as well. Together, they built the U.S. auctioneers into a strong sale company. Didn't end there. Their business did everything from businesses can rent storage units and estates. There are inventories and legal foreclosures on average. They ran 2 auctions every day. 6 days a week. It wasn't just a job, was their life, but that life almost came to an abrupt end on June 16, 2014, in the Laura saw something early in the morning. It seemed like something wasn't right with Dan. By 7:30 a.m., he had been dreaming about strange things. He was awake, but seeing double made him sick. After taking a shower, he felt dizzy and he passed out and stopped breathing. Laura right away called 911. And the operator gave her CPR instructions, which she did. Then without a doubt paramedics doctor rushed Dan to the hospital and told him Laura that Dan had been through a double brain aneurysm. His chances of living were slim. Was between 4% and 20%, surgery had to be done right away in some way. Dan pulled it. Took a long time to get better. And hurt. But Dan was determined to push through months of therapy just to do the things he loved again. Making that health scare an auction changed. They paid more attention to both of them. Family happier with every moment and even more dedicated to the company they built together. In 2015, they gave their Get Storage space to work online. That move put them in auctions.net, the world of online auctions. List of ads all over the US and Canada. It was perfect timing to catch the rise of Laura's net worth when she bids online, estimated to be $4.5 million, showed that the success they had come from more than storage wars, but from working hard for years. It makes sense in the world of auctions. In the past, Examiner.com said Dan and Laura Dodson started the storage wars without. They might not have had the show but the punches kept coming in life. In September 2020, their son Garrett was when the Dodsons were shot in the chest in Arizona. Were really hurt, but once again the family pushed through, and Garrett lived. He got better, and now he shares pics of his new life online of fast adventures with cars, boats, and skis. It's clear that he shares his parents' strength through all of this, but made the Dodsons even more determined to begin giving back by giving their time and auctioneering for good causes, especially those who work with kids and making education one of the most important charity events. Took place in August 2019 on board the USS Zoom. Walt helped raise money for the U.S. destroyer Navy. A few months later, they played. There was another big event at Real Housewives star Kyle Richards's house that one brought up over $100,000 for charity, and the whole thing was filmed by Renee and Casey on Bravo TV. Renee Nyota and Casey Nyota first met as well-known faces on Storage Wars, but they didn't stop there. Even though most of when the show slowed down, the cast became less noticeable. Renee and Casey did something very different way. They made use of the attention they got on TV to start a much bigger project, something digital, and that choice changed everything. That started while they were still on the show. Not just as they looked at the storage units, they turned on their cameras and brought the crowd in. Behind-the-scenes videos that they put on their YouTube channel called Deal Hunters, they showed the things they found at thrift. They made deals, and even some of that channel grew quickly. In my personal life, more than 192,000 people signed up for their videos about storage finds, and thrift stores began making good money. In fact, Renee's wealth increased to $1.5 million. Not from TV, but mostly from sales web. Some cast digital content and other cast. The group was still hoping for another season. The Nyotas were putting together a new what kind of business. They hired people for put their things on eBay. It wasn't just a side job, it was a full-time business. Renee had been selling things online since 1995, long before social networks became popular. He was ahead of the curve in one of when they made their biggest and bravest moves, 2021, which is when they shut down. It had a real store in Poway, California, and been going for more than 10 years and was 7,000 square feet, but when their lease ends it was over. They didn't renew it, and the store didn't fail. It was their choice. Fans were ready to go fully digital. I was shocked, but now I see it was a smart move. Especially when there are storage wars. Pivot getting ready to cancel their online. It wasn't just about making sales. Became a spot where they could share honest private moments after a theft in 2019 at Renee, who runs their store, put up a heated video. Burglars took valuable coins and baseball cards. He was very angry. He said tell would-be thieves that he was armed and would do anything to protect his. It was a side of him that fans liked, hadn't seen on TV before. He let down his guard when he was measured online. Their videos also gave us a look into they got married when Casey began. Fans saw them on the show less in 2016, thought there were issues. Rumors about the news of the divorce spread, but the couple shut those down with their writing. They were honest about the problems of getting their work done together. Taking care of fame with daughter Tatiana was messy, honest, and real. Then came something they didn't expect. In March 2024, YouTube uploads stopped altogether. Especially social media stayed busy. Instagram, where they still shared a look at thrifting and family time, but their main source of content, YouTube, disappeared. Fans who were quiet started to wonder, were they making plans to go back to TV with a new business, or did something interesting happen to the end? Timing brought up even more questions about store wars was going on at the same time. Officially cancelled, but they might have been planning the next part of their story.